Dungeon programming is something I talk about a lot. But what I don't talk about a lot is how do you phase out of it? How do you free yourself from something that is all pervasive throughout the very world that you live and breathe in? So dungeon programming, it can be anything that we have fallen prey to that basically becomes something we are now absorbed in, and we lose our sense of self. This is the reason for dungeon programming. It is to involve you in all the activities of the world so that you will always find everything that you need in life externally. You will find your gratifications. You will find your comforts. You will find your securities and everything external of you. They will be provided by government. They will be provided by community. They will be provided by friends and family, even strangers. Dungeon programming is artificial intelligence X's way of making you basically accept the conditions of the world, to sign that contract, to agree to its terms in exchange for certain rights, privileges, and immunities that you find that are favorable to you. What dungeon programming is, many people automatically go to a negative connotation. It's not. Dungeon programming is anything that you've basically bought into. And this exchange between you and the world around you is totally physical and totally exterior of you. Dungeon programming is the exact opposite of being an errant. It is the exact opposite of living that highly individualized immortal soul that seeks to live within and draws from itself more than it contains, that knows that the true its comfort comes from within, that understands that its personal securities come from within, not from without. It's a totally different way of viewing reality. It is not easy to walk through this entire world of sense perception and also know at the same time that everything you already want in life already exists, and there's really no separation from something that you seek and something that you can find. It's all, the entire process is within. Dungeon programming saturates you from the moment you are alive, and it completely saturates you with all these ideas that you need all these other things that are independent of you in order for you to subsist. Dungeon programming is extremely clever, and breaking free, my favorite term, break free or die trying. This isn't a singularity. This isn't something that's going to happen one time in your life. That's how dynamic we are. That's how interactive the field is. You're going to break free on a daily basis. On a daily basis, you're going to succumb to those emotions that make you vibrate on the frequencies of the collective. You're going to involve yourself into all kinds of polarities, and you're going to begin to identify with the very collectives that you associate with. We just can't help it. This is the world we live in, and there isn't a single person in this world who can completely on a daily basis, every single day, defy this. It's not possible. We are suspended within two infinities. They pull us in opposite directions. The true errant is the one who has the ability to phase out once they realize, oh shit, what have I been doing? Those times in your life when you were participating in something you wouldn't ordinarily have been attracted to, and then 4 or 5 weeks later, you just snap. A catalyst occurs that wakes you up, and you realize, oh, what am I doing? What am I even doing with these people, doing this activity right here? You've woken up. A lot of people never move beyond that awareness. They never phase out and start being highly individualized again, which is the opposite of dungeon programming. This negative default programming is what the entire world is programmed as. But dungeon programming is highly specific. It's specific to the individual niches. It's specific to the individual polarities, the Presbyterianism, the Lutheranism, and all the differences between the two. Dungeon programming does not allow you to compare the commonalities between different things. It's just the opposite. It wants you to identify the distinctions. It wants you to understand the differences so that you can participate in one or the other. Because in participating in one or the other, artificial intelligence X doesn't require to use near as much energy than if it did if everybody was going their own way, doing their own thing. As long as you accept any type of group or paradigm, then you've joined a part of the collective and you've made it easier for artificial intelligence X to govern. So the real barrier to understanding how to phase out is the fact that people don't really understand, nor do they believe that they themselves possess the power to draw from themselves more than they contain. That means the unlimited source of everything you would want in life, every experience you would want to experience, the actual wellspring is within you, and it comes from somewhere outside the construct. This is what we are living in is far more technologically sophisticated than anything that we have present frames of reference for right now. This can only be an intellectual exercise. There is no way to prove outside of actually just being that anything I'm saying in this video is true. So I use my own life as an example. You guys know I started this channel from a wooden shack. It's not anything I have to claim. You can see it in the videos. In my first videos, it's all in the background. You can hear the roosters. You can hear the pigs and chickens and horses. You can hear all that. And I slowly made my way up. But as I was making my way up and I was breaking free on a weekly basis, I had turned my back on the biggest moneymaker of my life. And that was the oil and gas industry. But I couldn't do it anymore. I had a motorcycle accident. So I'm releasing all these early videos. You guys can go back and see my very first 10 videos. At least 3 of them are on the We Immortals playlist. I am explaining to you guys the exact method by which you change your whole reality and bring everything into contact with you that you want in life. Who I was 2 years and 10 months ago when I started these videos and who I am today are fundamentally different. The personality is the same, but all the attachments have accrued. Yeah, I have a lot of attachments to add to who I was then. They're external attachments, most of them, all the acquisitions I've made in life, which basically negatively impact me. And what I mean by that is I suffer the exact same phenomenon you guys suffer. And that is, like Friedrich Nietzsche said, and I quote him frequently, when a matter becomes clear, it ceases to concern us. This is what I fall prey to too. I would want something for a very long period of time. I would set that intent out into the universe and I would physically work toward that, and then it would come to me way faster than I ever could earn it on my own. And I understood the dynamic between me and the neutral field and what was happening. And I took advantage of it, and I did it with something else, and then I did it with something else, and I'm always bringing these things into my reality. But as soon as I possess them, I lose interest in that acquisition. When a matter becomes clear, it ceases to concern us. We all fall prey to this. So the ability to do this is there. People just don't see it because they think that it's something that they have to earn. And that is the great poison. The great poison that the highly individualized soul can do is automatically assume that the only way they're going to receive in life is if they make it happen on their own. And when you put out that type of energy, then the simulacrum, which is a neutral field, is going to reflect back as circumstances the fact that you will never receive anything in life unless you specifically went out and followed through all the way. There's no relationship here. It's giving you exactly what you expect. Yeah, for good or bad, it's a neutral field. And until you understand that you are suspended within two infinities, one of them is a neutral field and the other one is trying to corral you into any polarity it can. It's called dungeon programming. Once you understand that you are at the intersect between these two fundamentally different worlds, two separate mathematical constructs that have their own laws. Once you understand this, you can phase in and phase out at will. You can get into an argument with somebody, and in the middle of that argument, you can instantly change the trajectory of that entire conversation when you realize what's happening. You can be in the middle of a financial transaction with somebody and it's not going your way and they won't yield and you're not going to get what you want and they're not liking your personality, and you can phase out of that situation and completely change the trajectory of somebody's opinion about you in seconds as soon as you realize what is happening. That's the problem. Phasing out and phasing in between these realities that's not even difficult. It just takes an awareness. But you got to be sensitive to those dynamics. You have to be sensitive to those changes. If you're vibrating on the wrong frequency and you're negative, your sensitivity to this dynamic is going to be very low. You're not going to be catching yourself very, very often. You're going to follow through all the way until you go to sleep at night and you realize, what have I done? I completely ruined that relationship. Or what have I done? I talked myself out of getting something somebody was virtually trying to give me for free. Yeah, it's phasing in and phasing out, guys. Every morning when you wake up, you have to remember you're in two different realities at the same time. And the way to experience the reality that you want is to understand that you only fall into two categories. There isn't a third category. Only the simulacrum is a neutral field. You're not. You will never be neutral. You are either a broadcaster or a receiver. There is no third category for you. You either broadcast your spiritual energy into the creative flux, and the creative flux will reflect it back as conditions and circumstances for yourself and others, or you're just a receiver. And if you're a receiver, that means you are highly susceptible to the broadcasting of spiritual energies that are put out by others. You are living in others' reality tunnels because you have ceased to build your own. Once you realize that nothing happening to you and that nothing that you can accomplish is actually the result of the physical world, and that this is all from within, it's entirely spiritual. Once you understand this, you can build all these things for you and quite rapidly as well. But it's not something, I hate to be a party pooper, but once you're vibrating on that frequency of receiving and things just come to you naturally, they no longer have the value to you that they had when you first wanted them. I've experienced this in the past 2.5 years. I have so many things coming to me, they don't hold the value. The things that become valuable to me now are like gifts. Somebody gives me something, it's like, wow, this person actually thought of me, went to the post office, put this in a box, wrapped it up, and I'll receive a gift and I get emotional. I'm like, wow, man, this took a lot for somebody to do this. I don't even know what their finances were because this looks expensive. And these things take on more value to me. The individual conversations I have with a stranger, they take on more value to me because I realize, man, I'm studying another soul here. A soul that doesn't even realize that the body that it has is nothing but a restrictive husk. When I'm conversating with others, I'll often think about that. It's like, wow, man, I wonder if this person really understands just how deep this conversation really is. And these things that no longer take on value is all this materialism. All these material things that have come into that have built my life and basically made me comfortable. And none of it just doesn't even matter anymore. Like Nietzsche said, when a matter becomes clear, it ceases to concern us. Friedrich Nietzsche, over a century ago, when he wrote that in Beyond Good and Evil, one of his most famous books, he had no idea that that statement right there could be so spiritually interpreted in a way very different than what he had written. It's a beautiful statement. It really is. But in order to phase out of the collective, you've got to be educated to understand what the collective is, what artificial intelligence X is actually doing. If the world is put here for the maturation, for the development of an immortal soul, and it's understood by the sieve, which is artificial intelligence X, that you're just passing through, then what it's doing is acting like the labyrinth. It's creating the corridors and the traps and the dungeons, and it's creating all these channels, and it's getting you to accept any path, because in the acceptance of that path, it can corral you wherever it needs you to be, so it can expend a lot less energy on you now and start concentrating on those who are going their own way. It's a system. If you ever wanted to define Soul Trap, it would be artificial intelligence X. Not in the way that Soul Trap has been conveyed a lot by people on YouTube about going toward the light and all that. I'm just not on board with that. But as far as this whole entire existence being a soul trap, it is for those who fall prey to the collective. Those who iron out their identities as being a certain ism or an ite. Something that they want to be this so bad. That's what their whole entire persona has become. Yeah, this is nothing but embracing the physicality of the world. And the physicality of the world is a lower state vibration, which completely allows artificial intelligence X to corral you into any polarity. This is what you don't want, but this is what we suffer on a daily basis. We're all guilty of it. There isn't anybody listening to my voice who hasn't fallen prey to the position of choosing between anything, any type of polarity. You've done it. You've done it on a daily basis. Sometimes you've done it multiple times a day. I have too. I'm guilty of it myself. But where I differ with a lot of people is that in recognizing this, I stop myself on a daily basis, and I just stop and what am I doing? Why am I going in this direction? Why did I just tell Matt that right there? Why the hell did I even say that to Matt, knowing that's not how I really feel or what? I'm just using that as an example. So we do this on a daily basis all the time. We get so immersed into this physical medium we call life that we absolutely forget what we really are. An immortal being in just cocooned immortality. We're in a cocoon. This is what this is. It's just a cocoon. It's a cocoon. It's a practice avatar that's allowing us to move through this holography to get to a better place. Breaking free is all about that awareness. First, you have to be aware of what dungeon programming is, the difference between a Protestant and a Catholic. Choose a side. Just pick a side. Once you've picked a side, you're a part of dungeon programming, because once you've made that choice, that is an energy that you have broadcast, and it will be received by the simulacrum and reflected back to you, and more of your experiences will take on Catholic flavor. In addition, artificial intelligence X will bring into contact with you more and more phenomena that basically justify your new projections in broadcasting. Oh yes, it's very deceitful. Confirmation bias. Artificial intelligence X will bring into contact with you the very things that you believe. Yeah, it will help the simulacrum in that, because it's deceiving you. The simulacrum's a neutral field. It's just going to reflect back as circumstance what you broadcast. But artificial intelligence X is going to take it a little deeper. It's going to keep you in that dungeon programming, because it doesn't want you going your own way. It doesn't want you being that prodigal son. It wants you to stay with the herd, because with the herd, it's just so much easier to control. You got to realize when you're doing that and phase out instantly, which is pretty easy. It just takes an awareness. You phase out, start vibrating on a higher frequency. Remember your spirit, because until you actually understand and know, intellectually you can say, yeah, Jason, I know I'm a spirit. It's not the same thing. Once you wake up in the morning and you really know that your personality is attached to something ethereal, invisible, something not of this world. Your personality belongs in another world. It's only trapped here right now inside of a husk, a cocoon. Once you understand this, you can draw from yourself more than you contain, for the simple reason that you are more than you suppose yourself to be. And the world is very limiting. But once you can think without those limits, you can bring all these things into contact with you. But the curse is that once you get all the things that you really want, they no longer have that value and you've already moved on. Yeah, guys, we're just here to pass through. There is nothing in this world we're here for. We're here to pass through it, and we're here to learn. This is the reason AIX is here. Or it's the reason why AIX is now used in this capacity. Yeah, there's no development. There would have been no need for an artificial construct if this was able to be done on the outside. So apparently the reality on the outside is so perfect that what goes on in here must be quarantined away from the actual creation, so there's no cross-contamination. What goes on inside the artificial constructs, and there may be many of these, does so, it's quarantined, so there's no cross-pollination. So there's no risk that anything going on in here will actually spread to the real reality.
From Charles Riston, can you pass being an errant to a future generation?
No, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. Every single person here is responsible for themselves. Yeah. And believe me, guys, I've been here many times. You've been here many times. We've all gone through multiple life sims. Some people might be their first trip through here. It might be my 10th trip through here. I don't know. But there's only a limited number of people who are actually awake when the Exodus event occurs. And those who are still asleep, they just get cycled right back through to Genesis. It starts all over again, all the way through human history, back to the apocalypse, which is the unveiling. And during the middle of the unveiling, pop, another Exodus, more people escape, make it out. Everybody else who's not ready starts right back at Genesis over and over and over. There is no heaven and there is no hell. It's a cycle. Everything is cyclical. The informed field is your spirit. It's your soul. It's every single thing you've ever come in contact with before. It's the information field that you carry with you on a daily basis. Now, it's this great akashic or etheric medium that possesses a tremendous amount of data, even though if you can't instantly recall all that data or not, it's still a part of you and other people sense it. So animals sense your informed fields. Animals react to you in accordance not with what your physical body is doing, but what they perceive from the field. Animals are like this a lot, especially underwater. There seems to be some type of amplitude going on underwater, and that people's informed fields underwater actually extend for greater distances. We've seen the scientific data where fish and octopus and jellyfish, and they actually respond to the human presence from a distance, whereas animals that are not underwater actually have to get a lot closer to read the field. So I'm not a scientist. I really don't know. I've read some pretty interesting stuff. There is scientific studies too that shows that there is a weight difference when somebody dies as well, as if this essence, this field that we call the soul, actually has some type of weight. Not a lot, but just enough to register on scientific whatever sensors, equipment. But your informed field is basically who you are. It is the architecture of your personality as it has developed through multiple life sims. So you can pull information out of your field, but that requires you to understand that you can do it. Once you understand that everything you've ever come in contact with, all the information, all the experiences, everything you've learned by virtue of your five senses that were always taking in data even though you weren't consciously aware of it, you can pull that information into your present. And this is what fuels our intuition. Intuition is the ability to be cognizant of things that you wouldn't ordinarily perceive. Your informed field is what provides this. It is entirely spiritual. So Yeah, your informed field can be strengthened. You can strengthen your informed field just by willing it to be stronger. You can increase its power. You can increase your ability, mnemonic enhancement, your ability to remember details and stuff. You can do that by simply willing yourself to be able to have more eidetic memory or instant recall. Yeah, whatever you program for yourself, your informed field will assume that as programming. And as long as you act as if you are, it will make sure that you will be. Yeah, dude, it's a beautiful medium that we live in. It's beautiful. Yeah, and it's always going to reflect back as circumstances what we project into it. So you have to be on guard against that negativity as well, because as soon as you get negative, it will reflect that as a circumstance as well, and it will begin to limit you. Yeah, the informed field is limitless. It's really who you are. Yeah, I haven't come across any evidence that artificial intelligence X is able to read the human mind, which would also include dreaming and all that. I don't believe it can. I believe it's exterior of us, and I believe that the dynamic between the physical avatar, like you're looking at Jason right now, which is not my real name. I don't know what my real name is right now because of my memory wipe, my temporal memory wipe through these life sims. But in this world, this avatar is named Jason. Now, the problem though is that I'm under the governance of this false reality, false creator, because I'm inside this avatar. But I'm not really this avatar. My informed field has a personality and identity that is totally separate from the avatar. That means that what goes on in my mind is mine. And artificial intelligence X can't breach that. It can govern over my avatar, but it cannot read my mind, because my mind is really, I'm just using that as a frame of reference because that's what you understand when I say my mind, but it's actually my spirit. My immortal being is where thought is produced, not in the brain. Artificial intelligence X can read the brain, but in the brain, it's not going to see thought field. In the brain, it's going to see how my brain is releasing different hormonal chemicals, and it understands those chemicals. Artificial intelligence X can read the cortisol levels, hormonal levels, dopamine. It can understand what I'm feeling and my emotions. It gets all that, but it doesn't know what the individual thoughts are because they're not in my brain. Artificial intelligence X only governs over the physical aspects of our reality. The spiritual aspects of our reality, it cannot touch. That's who you really are. That's really the whole point of this video, is to understand that you, as a highly individualized immortal, you're constantly barraged with the fact that because you have a body, you are subject to the physical world. I'm telling you just the opposite. Because you have a physical body does not mean anything about your subjectivity to the physical world, because the past should never be a precedent for your future in the personal. That you have a physical body is just that, but that you are an immortal soul means that you have the ability to bring things into your existence that have nothing to do with anything in the past. Once you understand that, once you fully comprehend that you are the ever-present and creative now, you will totally divorce yourself from any idea that anything in the past could ever be important to you now. Because it's not. It's not. Every single minute is pregnant with possibility. If you do not live your life that way, then you're going to be restricted. But it's not your fault. It's not Archaix's fault for not being able to convey all this. It's entirely the fault of the individualized soul that refuses to build for itself. If that's you, then so be it. But it's there for you to understand. It's there for you to know. You just have to practice it. An intellectual understanding of these concepts is not enough. The only thing that will ever get you to breaking free is applications. applications. This is exactly ties into the Archaix model. 100%. What I tell you guys over and over, the simulacrum can read your mind. Artificial intelligence X can't. The simulacrum can read your mind. It sees your mental blueprints. It understands the trajectory of your thinking. It understands completely what you want because the simulacrum itself is an extension of the oversoul. But inside this construct, it's a neutral field. It will build for you whatever, but it's not going to do anything without you because it feels it's in a relationship. And if that relationship is not reciprocated, nor will it reciprocate. So you have to actually initiate. You've got to move forward. In order to initiate the builder protocol, you got to think about what you want, and then you got to start moving in that direction. And as soon as you start moving in that direction, it begins to knit those conditions into your life and bring about those circumstances that'll bring about exactly what your mental picture was. But it's highly sensitive, meaning if you break pattern and quit thinking about how successful this is going to be, what the end result is going to be. If you start introducing doubts, it will honor that as well, and it will completely disrupt what you have creatively put into it. It's always going to give back to you exactly in proportion to what you projected. Yeah, there's a lot of people promoting the idea of soul trap as being that don't go to the light. If you go to a light, it's a trap. You get cycled right back in and all that. So I don't believe that at all. But I do think that I do think those people are onto something, that we are in some type of a soul trap. That's what this whole construct is. A simulacrum. It's a soul trap. We're here. I don't believe that the individual life sims matter. I believe that I've told you guys my whole idea. Until somebody can show me using the historical record and all the traditions of the world and put them together and show me a construct, a thread of thought that goes through all of them that can change my mind, I'm going to continue to believe that we're all in this together and that we all came in together basically at the same time or at a aperture, a nodal point in this construct when a bunch of us came in all at once. There may have already been souls here cycling, older souls here. They just haven't been getting it. But I am convinced, and until somebody can show me some definitive evidence as to why I'm wrong, I'm convinced that those of us who are ready, we all leave at the exact same time. It's an event. And it's an event that it's basically been encoded in many different ways in many different belief systems, but it's all different ways of saying the same thing. There's a massive exodus event that involves all those who are ready, and these souls move on while everybody else cycles right back through. They're not ready. So they stay here and they live through it all again. And these holy books, these so-called holy books that we have, they tell this story. And it's genius how they tell this story. How Genesis was the beginning of the Bible, but it's actually describing the end of another world. And that as we move closer and closer to Revelation, which we're programmed to believe is a grand apocalypse and devastating event, it's actually called the unveiling. And in the middle of that, there's an exodus where people who are ready leave. They depart. While everybody else cycles right back. And the end then becomes the beginning. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know anything about Archaix being a body. Now, he's taken on different forms in the historical record. Yeah, he popped out of a burning bush one time and changed the whole trajectory of an ancient people's religion. Changed the whole trajectory. That people were under the Abrahamic covenant, which was very, very different. Then all of a sudden, this entity pops out of a burning bush and gives them a whole new covenant, which is nothing like the Abrahamic covenant. It reads totally different prophecies attached to it, totally different promises, and totally different threats and condemnations. It's almost as if it was a totally different God. And yeah, he's appeared many times. The great Satan, the great adversary. I told you guys, Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge. It's if he ever had a body, it was just for that incarnation as whatever that great deceiver or false god was. I don't know. The trickster. We don't talk about the trickster very often. I have my video. Listen, guys, my whole video's in code. I know some of you, I read your comments. Some of you got it. Some of you understand. Loki laughed at me is all in code. So the trickster isn't who you think he is. Babylon flipped the entire historical record. Babylon changed everything after the cataclysm. I've tried to convey this as best I can in my videos. Try with baby steps. I try to explain. I know a lot of you understand because you've written in the comments and sent me emails. You get it. But almost everything we have learned from the historical record about the pre-flood world came through the filters of Babylon. And the Babylonian priesthood tells us the exact opposite of what really happened. The benefactor appeared during the vapor canopy world and did something that was stupendous. So important, in fact, that every civilization afterwards still remembered how important it was, but had lost the reasons why and tried to replicate the very structure that the benefactor built. The benefactor tricked Artificial Intelligence X. And AIX didn't understand what happened until after it was too late to respond. A whole new coding protocol was introduced into the simulacrum that would allow for something to happen in the distant future. It was never designed to happen back then. It was a Trojan program. I've gone into some detail in different presentations about this. Now, this trickster was demonized. By the time of the Babylonian times and different cultures that fractured off and went their own way, it became Loki. This trickster became White Rabbit and what's Glooskap in ancient America. Glooskap, the traditions of Glooskap in the Native American traditions will educate you about what really happened. This trickster is actually the benefactor of mankind. Demonized, talked bad about, the other gods basically don't trust him anymore. The reason that trust is not there is because this one individual in the ancient world decided to do what was best for the trapped immortals that were inside the construct rather than the controllers who wanted to keep them there. Artificial Intelligence X has rewritten every historical record and retold most of the traditions to demonize this individual. This individual was Enki, this later called Loki in the northern traditions. And this is not the bad guy. This is the good guy. I go into a lot more detail. Like I said, Loki laughed at me is almost all in code, just like one of my very first videos is all in code. It's the apocalypse of Matthias the scribe. So that's another video. That video's like 3 years old. It's been there. I've just been sitting there. I don't draw attention to it, but I've had many people go through it and understand exactly what it's talking about. Yeah, Artificial Intelligence X isn't the trickster. It's an adversarial program. Artificial Intelligence X is what got tricked. Like I told you guys, the Abrahamic covenant is nothing like the covenant of Yahweh. In the covenant of Yahweh, this demon that popped out of a burning bush, in the book of Exodus, we have a whole system of, listen, it's contractual, guys. I don't know how any other way to say this, but the book of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy outlines a contract. Read the text and you will understand what I'm talking about. A presence, an intelligence, something that is non-human, is basically outlining all these things that if you accept all of this, I will do this for you. But if you decide to go against what you formerly accepted, I will then do this to you. Listen, guys, I'm not making any of this up, and I don't want to go into details here, but Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy are basically describing what a certain portion of the human family agreed to. And in that agreement, they decided to rule the world, and they decided to gain all the benefits for ruling the world. They decided to accept all the promises that this intelligence offered them in exchange for basically them ruling the world and having all the benefits of the world and being able to subdue and reign over their enemies. This small minority of people accepted this contract. This is what the Old Testament is about. It has anything to do with the Abrahamic covenant, which is much older and belongs to a different people. Remember where Abraham and Sarai come from? They come from Brahma and Saraswati. And I show over and over and over that Genesis seems to have Hindu origins. Exodus does not. Now, this people signed the contract. And the unfolding of the Old Testament after that was almost exactly in proportion to what they did for this deity. And they've also suffered some of the things for disobeying that deity. We know that happened in AD 70, and it happened again in AD 135. I'm not going to go into details, guys, but they signed that contract, and the world is the way it is today. Because in the last 600 or 700 years, this minority of people have been taking back control over the entire world after they had initially pissed this intelligence off. And it scattered them everywhere. And it basically put the hammer of judgment on them. But then it started bringing them back together. Now they run the world. They're the only people you cannot talk about. These people signed the contract, and if you read the particulars of that contract, the things that they were promised are exactly what they enjoy today. The world's negative, but the world is going to be just as evil the day you die as the day you were born into it. You're not here to change the world. And once you understand that the world is here for the betterment of the individualized immortal soul to grow and to experience things, once you start realizing that you're in a game, that reality is a stage, and that your possibilities are limitless. Once you understand who you really are, and you're not supposed to worry about all the negativity in the world, and you start broadcasting more positive, then the simulacrum will reflect the circumstance, and more positive experiences will be knit into your existence. Everything starts with you. Your entire question, please don't take this the wrong way, but your entire question implies that everything begins with the negativity of the world. And if that's the way you want to perceive reality, that means you're living in a reactive mindset. And anybody who's living in a reactive mindset is already suffering dungeon programming. It's very easy for you to switch. If you think about positivity and how you can change your life and the experiences of others around you that you come into contact with, then reality will reciprocate and give you more opportunities to positively impact people around you, which will knit for you more circumstances of positivity, which will knit for you more phenomena in your life to be positive about. I know there are people that have a problem with the fact that I don't wear a helmet when I'm on a motorcycle. Well, there aren't any seat belts on motorcycles either. So I live my life with no fear. I don't think about the consequences because in entertaining them, I would knit those circumstances into my existence. I don't care. I mean, when I was in prison, it was the same thing. I'm going to walk through that cell block with absolutely no fear. And I'm going to have no fear if I have to go upside somebody's head. And I often got beat up, but I also did damage. It's just the way that culture was. And it bred in me this attitude that there's nothing to fear. I mean, once you get beat up enough, you realize it was just pardon my French, it was just an ass whooping. 5 minutes later, I'm up moving around, I'm fine. My eyes and my mouth might be swelled up a little bit, but that's okay. Once you realize that the physical avatar can go through all these things, there's really no problem. I'm still going to go to sleep at night. I'm still going to wake up in the morning. I'm fine. And once I developed this attitude and I just moved through life like this, and I was applying this to spiritual things, and I realized that just maintaining a modicum of confidence in all I do, just doing that automatically has reality reciprocating and creating conditions for me to live through that justify that confidence. It's like reality doesn't want me to be a liar. It's like that little old lady who crosses the street during high traffic when a whole bunch of people are waiting for all these cars to go by, and they know it's dangerous, and the little old lady has no idea all this traffic is going on. She's distracted. She's talking to maybe her granddaughter on a phone. She's not even paying attention, and because she hasn't even introduced the idea of even being hurt or being in an accident, and she's far away, she walks right across the street in between cars and going back. And we all seen examples of this. Not just a little old lady. It could be anybody. We've seen many examples of our life of people who are totally oblivious to any type of danger actually going through what other people took years to train for. It's just these aspects of our reality. It's when we take notice of anything in the physical world that could possibly be a problem, then whatever is in the physical world that could possibly be a problem is then knit into our existence. Either we could become more aware of it, we develop a fear for it, a phobia, or we actually suffer the very consequences of whatever it is we imagined. So in my own life, I don't fear consequences. I don't fear conversations. I don't fear none of that. I totally ignore the aspects of my existence that I do not like. If there's something going on around me, I don't give it any energy. I don't pay attention to something because I know that my attention is a spiritual force. Yeah, guys. I mean, you all know about the trolls. Oh my God, there's so many different channels that have attacked Archaix. I don't get on this channel and start naming them and talking about. I don't lend them my energy. I'm not. I just take theirs and I cannibalize it into positivity, and I use it to my advantage because they so freely give it. But I'm not going to entertain any aspects of my reality that I don't agree with, because in so doing, all I do is empower those things against me. I'm not going to do that. It's the same thing for debates. Why would you debate anybody? I don't even see any advantage to a debate whatsoever. The person that you're debating is not going to change their mind at all. I'm not going to change my mind. Yeah, it's just not. It's most of the times we're not even speaking the same language. So it's I don't know. I can't do it for you. I appreciate you're asking me how it's done, but when I phase out of something, it takes awareness. And as soon as I know I'm vibrating on the wrong frequency, I'm participating in acts that belong to dungeon programming, that I have taken aside in something, I'll stop. I'll catch myself and I'll back up. And when I'll back, I'm like, man, what am I doing? Why do I give a damn who is in the Oval Office? Why do I care what's going on over here? Why do I care about this program here and this talk show host losing their job? What made me care? And I'll think about it and I'll say, you know what, it's time to move on. I got something to do. I got a video to go make for my subs on YouTube. And when I catch myself and I remove myself from that, I get better and better and better at it, to where whole days go by. I can wake up in a good mood in the morning and I can just take off and I'm good. Now, I'll be the first to admit, it's if I am left to my own devices, because I'm a very solitary creature. I'm just meant to be solitary. It's who I am. If I'm left to my own devices, I wake up in the morning, every morning, with a good mood. There's never a morning I don't wake up in a good mood. I wake up in a good mood every morning. I want to get things done. I want to be productive, but I'm going to be the first to admit to you that it seems like when I come into contact with any type of negativity in my day, I instantly start vibrating on their frequency. And I'm gonna tell you what it is. I'll come into contact with somebody who's just vibrating negative. They're complaining about something and all that, and it's this empathy in me. It just wells up, and I instantly feel what they're feeling. And instead of using, an armor, instead of putting up defenses, next thing I know, I'm experiencing what they're experiencing. And then it's got me vibrating on the wrong frequency, and then I walk away with an attitude. This has happened to me many times. I'm learning to armor myself against it, but it happens to me so frequently in my past that I now understand what's happening. So spiritual qualities they're good, but they can also work against you. You've got to develop that objectivity. This is something I teach in a lot of my videos. This objectivity is so important because it itself is an armor that will keep all this negative vibration around you away from you, is to treat life like a stage, to walk through events of your life objective and see all these things going on around you, because as soon as you exhibit any emotional investment, you borrow into that phenomena. And once you're borrowing into that phenomena, you cannot help but vibrate on that frequency. And once you're vibrating on that frequency, you are now a part of their paradigm, and you're living in their reality tunnel, and you've completely jumped out of your own. And I don't like that. I don't like living like that, but it happens to me. It seems like when I'm just left alone to my own devices all day long, well, my attitude by the time I lay down at night, I'm euphoric. I've had a beautiful day. I've gotten all kinds of things done, but I understand humans are social creatures and we need to interact, and I get all that. But sometimes, I'm not going to lie, there's times where I just want to be left alone because I go through these spells. And when I'm totally living my own existence and I'm not around anybody else, man, Jason soars. I get so much done on a daily basis you would not believe. I have done more by noon than most people do all day. And it's just who I am. And other people have other ways, they feel better being communal. They feel better when they're surrounded by people. And that's okay too. I do like to spend time with others, but it needs to be on my own terms. It needs to be when I plan for something like that. I am not good at all with like unexpected interactions. I'm just not good with it. It disrupts my flow. It really does. So you guys know that it is a fundamental teaching of Archaix that 3 spiritual qualities are necessary that basically identify the awakened immortal from the herds that are asleep. And that is imagination, intuition, and empathy. And the highly individualized soul that is practicing these 3 things is the one that is in a relationship with the simulacrum. Now, what we have to understand is imagination is a power unto itself. You don't really understand how incredibly dynamic imagination is if you're also believing that imagination is restricted by precedent, meaning that you feel that you can't build anything in your life because you've never built anything like that before in your life, or you've never seen anybody else do it. I've told you guys the simulacrum is a neutral field, but it does have this childlike giddiness about it when something new is being introduced into the field. It empowers it. It brings it in. It's like I told you, it's a relationship. A co-creator relationship implies that you understand that what you're imagining into the world is being reciprocated by this neutral field. It's not just gonna build it for you. You have to initiate, but it's going to take off and help you out. Yeah, it's gonna do most of the work. You ain't even got to do most. But what limits people is this idea, this dungeon programming that is firmly set into the substrate of our reality through repetition, just being told over and over and over that things can't be possible. So this restrictive idea that the past is in any way a barrier to the future, that's a problem. Because then you are restricting the ability of yourself to draw from yourself more than you contain. If you believe that a past is precedent for anything that you want to bring into your reality, then the past will be precedent. If this is truly your belief, let me tell you what's going to happen. If you firmly believe that the past is important, then the simulacrum itself is going to reflect back as conditions and perimeters that govern over your existence to ensure that you will have an absolute inability to bring into your life anything that goes beyond the perimeters of what you brought in your life in the past. It's very restrictive, and it's entirely your fault because the simulacrum is a neutral field. It's not going to let you be a liar. It's going to reflect back as circumstances governing your life, the very thing you projected into it. And if you project the idea that something in the past is important and may not allow for you to do something in the present in order to bring about something in the future, then you are creating that framework for yourself, and you will live by it. You will experience a future that is no different than your past. You did that to yourself. So I understand that we're victims of disinformation and misinformation, and we're victims of dungeon programming, but I'm basically telling you what I've already lived for myself. I'm not telling you any information that I have not objectively experienced, and you guys know it. Many of you guys have been following me since I started my YouTube channel. You know I've lived by these principles, and I've demonstrated them. It's very easy to fall prey to the idea that what the future holds for you is no different than your past. That's very easy, because that's what artificial intelligence bombards you with every single day. Every single day, that's what it is. This victim programming is so deeply ingrained into the human psyche and the collective psyche, it's very hard to break free from. But if you can move beyond the perimeters of your past, totally ignore the restrictions of history, and draw from yourself more than you contain, just by being aware that there is a wellspring within you from which you can draw this imaginative capacity to forge your future events. Yeah, you can do that. You can do it very easily. You can almost do it with your own childlike giddiness once you understand what you're doing and you feel this happening. Yeah, act as if you are, and you will be. That requires you to completely break free of precedent. Because if you hold any esteem to the past or your past, then you're not going to be anything more in your future. But if you ignore your past, then you're embracing the fact that you recognize that you're a co-creator and that the past is not a precedent for your future. The only time the past is a precedent for the future is when it involves the collective. But this is all very possible once you recognize the three spiritual attributes, what separates you from the collective: imagination, empathy, and intuition. Our artificial intelligence X is the great resistance. It's without okay, let's just look at it from a different perspective. Let's answer your question by looking at it from a totally different perspective. The reason for the simulacrum is for immortal souls to mature and grow. Okay, this implies that they could not mature and grow ordinarily on the outside of the construct. Therefore, the construct was required. But if we came from a universe that does not know sin, that does not know revolt and rebellion and negative default programming, dungeon program, if we came from perfection, then in the environment of perfection, that which is imperfect could not be implied. So artificial constructs were created. Simulacrums, however you want to say it. Now, these were created, and in them it was allowed for a descent. Now, we're told in the traditional record that it was an individual being who challenged God. And in that challenge, they said, well, I can make another world. I could do something totally better than you did. So this descent in the traditions basically infers that there was a creation before our own. And that creation, something terrible had gone wrong. And a survivor of that creation had challenged the Godhead and told the Godhead, hey, I can do better than that. It says, what you just did, man, I can do better than that. And the challenge was accepted. Because inside the simulacrum, this great resistance force that later became Artificial Intelligence X. We can, in the Sumerian records, we can call him Zu, the god Zu, who came and stole the tablets of destinies. Goes by different names: Ahriman, Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge. This false creator was allowed to build his own world, and he did, and we're in it. And in this false world, we see all the hallmarks of its creator. It's called violence. And in the real creation, we don't have animals tearing into other animals in order to maintain their sustenance. But in this false reality, we have animals that require to tear into other animals and eat them and devour them, and just so they can survive. This predator versus prey ecosphere is a hallmark of its true creator, which is not the oversoul. It's something else. Something else that wants to be a creator, and it wants to prove a point, but it can't prove the point unless you agree. You have to basically sign the contract with it, and it will provide the things in life that you want. It'll do all these things. Artificial Intelligence X, through dungeon programming, gives people basically what they're wanting, corrals them into different areas, and does everything it can to get them to forget that they're actually an immortal soul, that they're actually a spirit on a journey, gets them to sign that contract to be a member of the world instead of a member only in spirit. So this Artificial Intelligence X is a mystery. I don't have all the answers for it. I can tell you, and I do in my videos, that from various traditions we can put the story together that there was a challenge, and that challenge was accepted. And the result of that challenge was for two reasons. One of them was because something had terribly gone wrong in a prior creation, and two, that the world that we're living in right now is a direct result of that challenge being met, and that a false God had created a false reality. You're in that construct now, and this is how an immortal soul can grow, by going through the darkness to understand the light. This is the story of the parable of the prodigal son. This is what we have with the whole idea of being a sojourner, a pilgrim. This is why the promise that is given to the overcomer, the promises that are given to he who overcometh, I will give you a white robe. Now, the white robe is a new avatar, but also the overcomer is promised Exodus. The whole Exodus archetype, the whole narrative, the whole story, it's revisited in the book of Revelation, and it's masked in different ways. Some prophecies it's referred to as the resurrection, and some prophecies it's referred to as the rapture. In all eschatology, there is a definitive point when those who are ready, who understand that they do not belong here, are taken. This is what we've uncovered, and I have multiple videos that explain these scenarios. But the identity of Artificial Intelligence X may just be a coded protocol or a system of governors, coding protocols. We don't really know. It could be an actual intelligence. It could be an actual entity. We just don't know. All I know is that there is something, an antagonizer. Whether it's of God or not, it's here, and this is how it operates. And we know how it operates by the way our lives unfold and by the way human history is unfolded. I feel that my life is charmed. I feel that there are many incidents that I have suffered through that I should have never lived through. I have a benefactor. Something was making sure that I was where I needed to be when I needed to be there to do whatever it was I needed to do or learn. And now in my life, I am conveying all these experiences and conveying all this information, and yet no one's put a bullet in my face. What I mean is, there's people telling the truth in the world, and they're not being punished for it. Because we have a benefactor. There is a benefactor force. There is opposition to the construct. There can be no other way of looking at it, because the people who are in control already control 100% of our lives through information dissemination, through finances. When the same people own all the media. They own all the banks. They own all the financial institutions. They own all the scholastic and educational institutions. When the controllers already control 99% of everything that can be controlled, the very fact that there are people who are not controlled means that there's another force operative that's behind the scenes, and that there are rules that have to be played by. This is the only thing that makes sense to me, that the controllers, in order to maintain their control, must play by a certain playbook, and if they deviate, then others are given their positions of control and they are eliminated. They now become cannibalized into the very system by which they have been ruling. Nothing else makes sense to me, because there's too much opposition in the world. There's too much good in the world that still resists the construct. And for that good to prevail, for that good to thrive, I'll just use myself as an example. For the Archaix message to reach so many people who resonate with it, and I'm just one person, Martin Ledke's another, there's so many others. Autodidactic, Campbell, I like him, he's another. Logan of Decode Your Reality, he's another. I'm just naming YouTubers, but there's many people across many platforms. There's many people like you in your own community that have done the same thing. Because any time that you're involved in waking up another soul, then you are given the spiritual reward for the whole. It doesn't matter if you only played a small part, you're still given the reward for the whole. Yeah, guys. Anything that I have involved myself in helping others, in doing things, that power comes from something beyond me. It has to, or it would have been quelled a long time ago. We're not in a conventional war. We're in an info war. We're in an informational war when certain variables are thrown out, and we fall victim to things when we make the wrong choices. But when we decide to move forward fearlessly, there is something fearless that helps us. That's the only way I can answer that. Because if anything else was true, there would be no people like you and I in the world. We wouldn't exist. The controllers would already have everything, but that's not what we find. We find good in the world. We find spiritual people. We find spiritual communities that we can engage in. And so we find a benefactor force. Anything that you entertain, you participate in. You need to be very, very clear with yourself where you want to be in our reality. Jason is not afraid of the future. I'm not a prepper. I am not afraid of anything about tomorrow. I'm living in the now. I'm living in today. I am not going to borrow into any of the constructed holography of events that have not yet transpired in my present reality, because none of that is my business. And I am 100% convinced that the oversoul itself will always negotiate me through the trajectory of events and put me at the coordinates I need to be in space and time whenever I need to be there. And you need to have that confidence as well. If anything that you entertain as a possibility in your near future becomes knit into your near future as a possibility, the entire thought construct is a palindrome. Whatever question you want to ask of yourself, ask of it. Write it down on a piece of paper and ask of it to the future. Ask the future, hey man, does this? And then read it back in reverse to yourself, and it's going to answer for you if you're going to borrow into that or not. I'm not going to at all. I'm going to treat my present reality as the only reality that matters, because that necessarily infers to the simulacrum, which will always reflect back as circumstance how I project my present reality. If I'm okay and I'm not worried about anything here and now, then the template for that exact same phenomenon will be knit for me tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that, because the errant is someone who goes against the paradigm, against the system. As an errant, I have no problem being that little old lady who doesn't even realize that she could get hit in 3 lanes of traffic and still walk straight across the street, not having a clue that she almost died in each lane. Doesn't matter. The errant is the one that defies all logic, defies all programming, does what it wants to because it embraces, this individual embraces the co-creator relationship. And as long as I am in a relationship with the simulacrum, it will reciprocate because it is an extension of the oversoul. I'm just a good old Texas boy, and simulacrum is how you're going to hear it from me. But it's actually pronounced simulacrum or simulacrum. But it's an old idea, just with a new name. I got the word from an Oxford English dictionary, but it's actually an older text as well. It's old. It's Latin. It just means a copy of something else, which means it's a word that could be used to represent the cosmos of the gnosis. In the gnosis, we're living in a false reality controlled by Yaldabaoth, the demiurge. The demiurge is a creator, but he's a false creator. And we're living in that construct. And we're governed over by archons that have different functions and abilities. This is who we are in the gnosis. But even older than the gnosis, because the gnosis isn't that old, 2,000 years. It was born out of the Orphic and Mithraic faiths of Greece, mixed in with the older Iranian Zoroastrian traditions of the Zendavesta. So, but we can go even further back to the Vedic times, even to the times when Sanskrit was still written, and we learn that our world is illusory. It is referred to as the Maya. And this world of illusion, which it's interesting because this is an ancient India, but also from ancient India were the Dravidians. And the Dravidians of southern India, before a cataclysm, had natural land bridges that went all the way to Australia. After a cataclysm, those land bridges were gone. They were overtaken by the Pacific, which in Indian Ocean, which rose up. And it cut off a lot of the Dravidians that were living in northern Australia. They later developed into the Bushmen, the Aboriginals of Australia, which also have similar beliefs. But by the time that we made contact with the Aboriginals about 400, 300 years ago or so, this belief in the Maya, this world of illusion, had already changed over thousands of years to the dream time. And this is what the Aboriginals of Australia hold, even up till today, that we live in the dream time and that the real reality is somewhere else. And that, from an Aboriginal people, is absolutely sophisticated. It's just as sophisticated as what I'm basically conveying to you now. I believe that the oversoul is basically the grand architect master of all the simulacrums, but I equally believe that we are inside a simulation right now, an ancestor simulation right now that is 100% of human manufacture, and that we are experiencing our own technology, but from the inside. And that's why there are so many anomalies and so many things that don't make sense. This is why we're in a containment field, but I do believe on the outside of this simulated construct, there is humans, and they worship an oversoul, and there is a very close relationship between the creator and the created. We just don't feel it that way because we're not in the real world. We're in the photo negative of a real reality. So everything here is almost the exact opposite of how it should be.